Hello, I would like to talk very briefly about unemployment compensation, as well as the unemployment that we are currently facing here in this country. Firstly, allow me to outline for you what prompted the creation of this video. I was at a dinner the day before yesterday, and we were conversing amongst each other, the persons that were in attendance at this particular dinner. And one individual made a comment that I didn't challenge. I let it slide. I didn't say anything because we're at a dinner. This isn't the place or the time. We're here to have a good time and enjoy ourselves. But the comment was along the lines of this: we need to stop paying people to stay at home, because if they don't have a job and we're giving them this unemployment checks, then they're not going to want to go out and work, and they're not going to look for jobs, and they're just going to eat off of that and not do anything. So what I like to do in this video is debunk that myth, because it is a myth and it's false and it's not based on any evidence whatsoever. In fact, the evidence suggests the exact opposite, but we'll get into that during the duration of this video, as well as many other things pertaining to unemployment, as well as unemployment compensation, unemployment that we're dealing with now, and maybe unemployment that we've dealt with in the past. Now let us begin. Unemployment compensation. If you're unaware, the American Rescue Plan Act, it was signed by President Biden on March the 11th of 2021. It extended the existing $300 a week benefit through September the 6th of 2021. Now, if you can harken back when the pandemic first began, through the CARES Act, okay, which was basically a huge giveaway to corporations. But in the CARES Act, there were unemployment benefits of $600 a week. So double what the unemployment benefits are right now. And as you can see, it goes from 600 to 300. Well, why? It's because your government loves you. That's why they cut your unemployment in half. There you go. But all jokes aside, it went from 600 to 300, and 300 is what we're dealing with now. So let's put ourselves in the mind of a person that doesn't have a job, and say this person is getting $300 a week, they're unemployed, and there's 52 weeks in a year. And let's say they've been on unemployment for an entire year. So $300 a week, 52 weeks, 365 days. At the end of the year, that's a little bit over $15,000 for an entire year being on strictly unemployment. Now, of course, this is the federal unemployment. There's state unemployment as well, but let's just take this number. $15,000, a little bit over. That's enough to keep people from looking for work? Are you kidding me? 15,000. That's it. Paying people to stay home. If a person is earning more through unemployment than they're getting through their actual job, that's an indictment on the job, not on the unemployment insurance. If a person is earning more from unemployment than from their job, I have a solution. Why not raise their wages? Why is it that we must attack the social programs and the social safety nets in times like these? You see, it's the thinking, it's the wiring of Americans. They've been taught that if you struggle, if you lose your job through no fault of your own, which so many people have done, and we'll get into that in a second with this COVID-19 pandemic, with this crash of capitalism. So many people have lost their jobs through no fault of their own. It's somehow your fault. And you should get up and go get another job, or get the same job that you once had, and you don't deserve unemployment checks, because it's going to be an incentive for you not to look for work when the unemployment that you're receiving is crumbs. And the job that you'll go out and get, the wages that you'll be paid for working that specific job, will be crumbs. Need I remind you that the federal minimum wage in this country isn't a living wage. In fact, it's well below it. And that's something else we'll get into. So that's basically me debunking the myth of unemployment being an incentive for people not to return to work. It just simply isn't enough money in order to do so. It simply isn't. Now, what does unemployment look like right now in the United States. If you look on Google, if you just type it in your search bar or whatever search engine you may utilize, it'll tell you it's somewhere around 6.3%, the official number of unemployed Americans, 6.3%. I'm looking at it right now. That's false. And many people will tell you that is false. Let me tell you how unemployment in this country is calculated. It's calculated in many different ways, but I'll provide you with a couple. They ask you a question, or a couple questions, sorry. Have you no job? Do you have a job? Are you looking? If you don't have a job and you're looking, you're considered unemployed. Then there's a different question. Do you have a job? No. Okay, are you looking? No. You're considered out of the workforce, and they don't consider you unemployed. Well, that person is unemployed. That person doesn't have a job, but that's not how they do it. You see, and there's many different ways to define unemployment. Whatever statistics you look at, and people could define it many different ways to seek out a certain number. Okay, if you want to seek out a lower number, then you ask the questions that I just presented to you. The Bureau of Labor Statistics offer a vast array of unemployment numbers. So that's a place that you can check out if you want to explore the different kinds of unemployment numbers in this country. But I would like to outline for you how I personally believe that unemployment should be declined. Here we go. Unemployment should equal people that aren't able to get a full-time job with a wage that they can live on. Allow me to repeat that. Unemployment people should equal people that are trying or that aren't able to get a full-time job with a wage that they can live on. Okay? It's including people that aren't looking for work, people that have given up on the workforce, on the labor force, because they've been doomed so drastically under this system that we have and the different entities and situations that can make things harder for them when pursuing work. The Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell believes the real unemployment rate is closer to 10% and not that 6.3% that we outlined earlier. I have in front of me an article from Axios that says a person who is looking for a full-time job that pays a living wage but who can't find one is unemployed, which is what I just outlined for you as a definition of a person that's unemployed. If you accept that definition, Axios says the true unemployment rate in the U.S. is a stunning 26.1%, according to an important new data set shared exclusively with Axios on HBO. 26.1% if you take those different factors into account. During the Great Depression, during the peak of the Great Depression, in the 1930s, the unemployment rate in the United States peaked at 25.6%. These are striking numbers, and all of this is to say that there are many economic indications that unemployment is drastically worse than it seems or than a lot of people think that it is. So once again, to circle back to what we were talking about in the beginning of this conversation, to insinuate that people earning a measly $300 a week plus maybe a little bit more here and there on unemployment, right, compensation, that is an incentive for them not to return to work, return to jobs that are paying them low wages that they can't live on. It's a weird way to think, and we have to change our thinking, especially as it pertains to government. When you have lost your job through no fault of your own, that is when the government should step in and lend you a hand and provide for you the basic necessities of life, which should be ensured to every individual that is born in any specific society. At least that is my belief, right? If you don't have the basic assets, the basic necessities to live, then you are not truly free in any society. And we don't do that for our Americans. We don't give them health care. We don't give them free higher education. We're currently not giving them a living wage, among other things that we are depriving them of, and that has to change. And we're at the point where people are upset that people that have lost their job through no fault of their own are receiving the little bit of crumbs through unemployment compensations that they're getting. But I have news for you. The U.S. Chamber calls for ending the $300 weekly supplemental unemployment benefits to address labor shortages. So the people that are in Washington, D.C. are also, it's not just the people on the ground, the regular citizens, it's the people that are making the laws that are also saying that this is giving people incentive not to return to work. I'll read to you a statement by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Executive Vice President. The disappointing jobs reports make it clear that paying people not to work is dampening what should be a stronger jobs market. We need a comprehensive approach to dealing with our workforce issues and the very real threat unfilled positions poses to our economic recovery from the pandemic. One step policymakers should take now is ending $300 weekly supplemental employment benefit. Based on the chamber analysis, the $300 benefit results in approximately 1 in 4 recipients taking home more in unemployment than they earned working. Do you see the common trend here? They're taking home more in unemployment than they are working. Pay them more. Give them higher wages. Isn't it a shame? It's so weird how it's not looked at as shameful that these people are making more off unemployment than they are from their actual jobs. The solution isn't to pay them more for the job that they perform, but to cut the unemployment. This is asinine. That's what this is. This is shameful. Another article from Axios outlines how there's a current debate growing about whether generous unemployment cash, it's not generous whatsoever, we just talked about that, it's crumbs. But there are specific states that are blaming the benefits for keeping would-be employees home receiving their unemployment insurance instead of going out to work. Now, need I remind you, in case you forgot, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. It's been $7.25 for a long time. That's poverty wages, okay? A lot of these places that are saying they need workers, wages aren't even a living wage, okay? In fact, most of them aren't. So South Carolina and Montana are saying that they are going to nix the federal unemployment benefits, citing worker shortages. Georgia and Wisconsin may follow suit, Politico reports. So residents in those specific places will no longer get the extra $300 in benefits that the pandemic era programs offered to unemployment workers. Axios states here that the move to cut off benefits is reflecting the assumption that 1, jobs are available but unfilled, and 2, the only reason why a worker wouldn't take one is because they have an unemployment benefit. Secretary Janet Yellen says if the unemployment bonus was slowing down hiring, one would expect lower job growth in states and sectors where unemployment insurance is particularly high. In fact, what one sees is the exact opposite. So you see what we're saying here? It's a common trend. Even Janet Yellen gets it. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of when Donald Trump was in office, and one thing that he used to tout was his grand economy that he created and the many jobs that were awarded to many Americans, to many job seekers. But the thing that they never told you was that all these jobs that he created were low-paying jobs. Guys, half of workers in this country, make $30,000 a year or less. Half of workers in this country make $30,000 a year or less. That is from a study from the Social Security Administration. Their last set of data was from 2019, so that's the most recent data that I can provide you with. But half of workers in this country, $30,000 or less. So what have we learned? Workers aren't earning enough in this country. More people are unemployed than you would ever think that there were, because we aren't accounting for the people that aren't looking for work. There's many different languages and different kinds of speeches that people use to classify as what pertains to unemployment and what classifies a person as unemployed. It's all jargon at the end of the day. And workers are working on starvation wages. They aren't making enough money to live. And through all of this, with everything that we know, people are pointing to the unemployment compensation as the reason as to why people either aren't working or making enough money. I'll end with this. The Rand Corporation did a study where they basically figured out that the top 1% has effectively stolen upwards of $50 trillion from the bottom 90%. They calculated that if the redistribution of wealth had stayed within the realm of the 3 decades following World War II, okay, the people, the bottom 90%, would be $50 trillion richer effectively. So I'll give you an example. So the income distribution for a full-year, full-time, prime-age worker in 2018 dollars. So in 2018, a person making $33,000 in 2018 would have made $61,000, almost double their income if the redistribution had kept up with the rates following the 3 decades after World War II. That's how bad it's gotten. That's how much these people have cut taxes. That's how bad workers are being screwed and wrenched out of every dollar that they earn. Okay? Pay the people a living wage, increase the unemployment, give people a UBI. We need to start catering to the workers, to the labor force. Okay? You see, there's a disconnect between, I believe, high earners in this country and low earners, even median earners in this country. There is no real worker solidarity because the way that people are taught, the way that they're brought up is that your fellow worker, they're not your colleagues, they're your competitors. And you're competing to get a job, to get a better job, because there is no job security in this country. You're not making that much money anyway, and so you're not sure whether you're coming or going. And so there's this thought that once you've secured your job and your income and all that, you start to look down upon others and say that, oh, well, they're not doing well because of this, and they're not doing well because of that. And it's their unemployment compensation that's dragging them down. The crumbs that they're being given for losing their job through no fault of their own. I hope that in the future, these sorts of sentiments can kind of die out and these sorts of mentalities can change, because when you have a viral pandemic and it's causing mass unemployment and you don't really even know what the real unemployment rates are, and people are being fed crumbs through their unemployment compensation, and people in the government are trying to cut that because they're saying that they don't even deserve that, and that is somehow giving them an incentive not to return to work, there is a huge problem afoot.